Happy 9/11. Happy 9/11. Happy 9/11. Oh yeah, it was a September morning. The smell of freedom rang in the air. But then some fucking terrorists from Uzbekistan came to ruin the way that Americans fucking rock and roll. Alright, perhaps this seems insensitive. It's not. 9/11 was my first day of... Well, actually, let's break it down. 9/11 was my first day of 10th grade back in 2001. And I remember my buddy Danny Raskin came running up to me and saying, right before English class at around 8:15 in the morning at the Calhoun School, a very bougie private school on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Danny came running up to me and he's just like, Duval, or Chow, as he called me. He said, Chow, a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. I was like, shut up, Danny. Come on, we're late for class. And then another 10 minutes go by. We're getting ready to go into class, 8:25 or sometime around there. Danny comes running up to me. He's just like, Duval, Chow, another plane hit the World Trade Center. I said, phooey. Come on, we're late for English. Next thing I know, we're in Riverside Park. Our teachers told us that we had to evacuate the school because in all our narcissism at the Calhoun School, we, of course, thought that a terrorist attack after the World Trade Center was going to happen to our 150-person private school in the Upper West Side. So naturally, they corralled us out into an open field to hide us from the next terror attack. And that was the prelude to many things that happened after that. This is not going to be an entire 9/11 episode because there's just way too much to unpack there. But I do remember... the most vivid thing about that day is standing in Riverside Park. Because we have PTSD, and I'll kind of revisit that. Culturally, we have PTSD from 9/11, and it was never really resolved. We kind of thought that we addressed it in the moment, but a lot of crazy shit happened to us culturally, and we never really processed that as a nation, I don't think, and that's where we are today, or that's the reason we are where we are today. And, but separate from that, so I remember sitting in Riverside Park, and this guy, a businessman, quote unquote, had his blazer in one arm, his briefcase in another hand, and he was covered head to toe in white soot, and he looked like this white ghost just walking up Riverside Drive, this procession of people, because the trains were shut down, so everyone had to walk from the financial district back to wherever they lived uptown. And that always stood out to me, that white ghost. This white ghost, this white guy, walking up Riverside Drive, covered in white soot from the ashes of the World Trade Center, or the destruction of it. And that set forth into motion a generation of people who have not really processed what it means to be under constant attack or from an invisible enemy, which is very much where we are now. And I think people in my age group kind of maybe tacitly have a sense of familiarity with COVID-19, this sort of invisible enemy that we were fighting back in the early aughts of terrorism. We had that high state of alert at all times, that constant panic attack mode. But at the time, I was fucking 15, 16 years old, so we made jokes about it, which is why I sang that ridiculous song just a moment ago. I remember we would just stand on the plaza of my school, just making jokes, being like, yeah, you better be careful, man. Those Lucada lieutenants, they're gonna come for you, man. And 50 fucking blocks away, we could smell the still burning rubble of the World Trade Center. But we were 16, and no one told us, what it meant, what the fuck was happening. And I don't know how exactly that ties into today, but there is definitely that energy of this sort of a rudderless ship, where Bush was this sort of fucking, not sort of, he was an ineffectual, well, we're gonna, terrorism, get him, And now we have sort of another perversion or another permutation of ineffectual leadership in the form of Donald Trump. But done differently, obviously. I don't know. It's a very interesting sort of parallel. But people forget how horrible Bush was, and that's why when people try to get down on Trump, I'm like, no, it was worse. I still maintain that the 8 years under Bush are vastly worse and still feeling the direct results of than we will ever feel in 4 to 8 years of Trump. Trump is just louder and more vocal about how he's fucking us over. Bush was more like, oh, gee willikers, guess we're not going to fund that inner city program. Oh, okay, we're going to do a bunch of wars and get their oil. So it really bothers me when people try to like freak out about Trump. And I'm like, we've done this before. Bush was definitely worse. He was just quiet about it, and you people can't handle the directness of Trump. Anyway, I hope if you lost someone in 9/11, you have seen therapy for that, because that's fucking horrible. Yeah, I don't know. People really kind of don't remember what that time. Remember terror alerts? Remember on TV, it'd be like, the terror alert is orange. And we're like, okay, so what does that mean? Be somewhat racist to Arabs? Yes, that sounds good. You know. And we have a similar version of that with this COVID-19 thing. And I don't really care to fucking intellectualize the overlaps or the correlations between the two, but they're there. So how about it? Hope you guys are doing well. That's the last time. I don't know. I remember 9/11 like in my body, but I don't remember it like intellectually anymore, or perhaps the opposite. Yeah, I remember it intellectually. Like I remember like, okay, we're going to Iraq, weapons of mass destruction. Okay, this is all horseshit. Oh, there are no weapons of mass destruction. Okay. Okay, 17 years later, we're still there. What? I don't know. People just... the Patriot Act, you know. We are still... we are enjoying the fruits of the Patriot Act, and we kind of forget that it happened. And, you know, again, I always tell people, Trump is a symptom. He's not the problem. You know, us laughing and smiling every time Obama was on the goddamn Tonight Show, or Joe Biden was on Law & Order SVU as sitting vice president of the United States, normalized the reality TV show star president that we now have. So we are all complicit in the nightmare that we're living in. I mean, I think we really try to do a good job of making an other out of the people we hate. I know. Ouch, my 30s. Started thinking about this shit more, but realizing there's less you can do about it. Yeah, that's the catch. That's another thing, too. You know, when people, you know, because Facebook is obviously, social media is the devil. Social media is why we have the problems that we have now. And people are just like, no, it's Trump supporters. No. It's social media and the Telecommunications Act of 1996, which allowed media companies to own more properties than they were legally previously allowed to own. So companies used to be able to own there used to be 400 different media conglomerates out there. Now there's 7. So that should tell you about the state of polarized media today. Oh, God. What was I saying? Oh, but how on social media, people try to post these examples of, like, a worst-case scenario about a group, right? They post, like, a Karen video, like, white women, like, screaming. I saw one where they dubbed over, like, zombie sound effects to, like, white, quote-unquote, Karens, like, going crazy on people, and it's hilarious. But that logic isn't, like, a certain type of white woman's terrible. The problem is that you can apply that to any group. You know, because on the same front, you know, you do that with cops, where it's like, look at these cops, like, just beating people. Or if you're a racist, you're like, look at these black people, like, knocking shit over and, like, looting and, like, robbing people. Or if you hate terrorists, like, or Arabs. I'm racist. You see what I did there? Disclaimer, terrorists and Arabs are not the same thing. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. With any group, you can find examples of them being shitty, make a meme out of it, share it, and then think that verifies your point. And that's the state of society that we live in now. And this does tie into 9/11, where we perfected or began that path of making an entire large group of millions of people reduced to these, like, sort of small example. I mean, I guess I'm just talking about prejudice and, like, race and just being a bigot in general. But we use it as this, like, indefatigable argument where you make a meme about a certain group being shitty. And it goes all ways, and that's the part I don't think people are connecting on. Where whether it's cops, black people, white women, Arab Americans, homosexuals, whoever, you can find... The point is, we're all fucking crazy. And the ability to find a bunch of examples of people being crazy in a certain group of people and being able to make a meme out of it to further your point or your agenda on social media just shows that there's a deeper issue here. It's not that black people are criminals or all cops are bad or white women be tripping. Well, white women do be tripping. But the point is that in our narcissism in this media landscape we've created, we've just fucking become monsters. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's been a long day. Like, I just hate how right everyone thinks they are. It's like, no, everyone has a point. Yes, there are horrible cops. Yes, there are less horrible cops. I mean, and also, look, there are horrible black people. And there are awesome black people. And there are horrible, it's so on and so forth. But it seems like people are able to, like, pat themselves in the back by being able to say, see? I don't know. This is I'm just sick of everyone arguing because everyone, like, we're all wrong, myself included. Like, no one is entirely right. And we've created a media landscape where we think somehow that's a possibility, that you could possibly be entirely right. Where an entire voter block, 50 million Americans, whatever the amount voted for Trump, or 35 million Americans, they're all bad. That's an insane assertion. And the same thing with to be a fucking redneck who's like, they're looting and burning their own neighborhoods. No, they're not all, like, not all people who are out in the street are there for destruction. It's like, come on, guys, we're better than this. And, 9/11, I think, had a lot to do with dividing this country, and same with George Bush. Anyway, I had a good day. Went to physical therapy. Making a lot of progress. Feeling better. Also, I didn't drink all week, which is like, oh, good for you, Duval. But I'm trying to do a thing where, like, kind of Monday through Friday, or Monday through Thursday, I'm drinking right now. Monday through Thursday, I don't drink. And it's one of those things where, like, you don't feel like, yes, I have so much energy. You just remember what it feels like to not be hungover and how beneficial that is. So that's always a good place to start. But yeah, went to my physical therapist. She's always a delight. Little tight little body, got a nice back. She's got really strong traps. Just want to mount her like an animal. Respectfully. So that was good. I was in front of the bodega or corner store up here, whatever you fucking call it, the deli. And this guy that I see around, he's a transient, shall we say. He's got like a yellow dookie chain, like a poncho, a very fancy shopping cart. Almost kind of looks like George Carlin in Bill and Ted, but like Puerto Rican. It looks like a Puerto Rican George Carlin. But I'm outside this deli, and he's like, hey, man. And he remembered me because I was doing, like, my street comedy, and, like, we interacted or something, and he said I looked like George Carlin. And I was like, well, I'm certainly not as funny as. But anyway, I saw him, and he's like, hey, man, can you... hey, I don't have my mask. Can you go in and buy me a pint of milk? I'll pay you when you get out. And I was like, whatever, man, don't worry about it. So I go in, I just buy the pint of milk. Also, I've never bought milk before because I'm fucking lactose intolerant. So, like, I went up to the lady, like an 11-year-old. I'm like, is this how many is a quart? And she had to, like, go get a quart for me because I just couldn't distinguish how much a quart was. So I go back outside and I give it to him, and he's like, he starts looking for his money. I'm like, dude, don't worry about it, man. Like, that's on me. And I don't mean this to be like a cliche, like, he didn't ask for drugs and I bought him a meal and I'm a good person. That's not what this is. I just remember driving by and he was sitting there drinking the pint of milk. And it just made me think about, like, damn, like, that's that dude's, like, that means a lot. Like, not like, oh, I got a good meal or, oh, I got a cookie. Like, he just wanted milk. He wanted milk. This, like, very basic, sustaining nourishment. And then I see fucking these rich fucks who are walking around with their Colby College crew hats on and their some fucking heavyset lesbian who's dressed like David Byrne in a Talking Heads music video, who also has bought a house. And it brought me to this thing where I'm like, one man's misfortune shouldn't, demonize another's success or, acquisition of wealth. But these people need to be aware that they are living on top of and amongst people whose highlight of their day is someone buying them a pint of milk. And that's my whole thing. Like, I'm not a socialist. I don't believe in, like, we got to stop the rich or we got to, like, tax the rich 90%. Because let's be honest, one day I'm going to be one of these people and I don't want you people taxing me. But that would make me feel so much better about it if people were just aware of the fact, or at least, like, in some way, shape, or form acknowledged that they are a part of this system that creates this huge gap between the wildly rich and the wildly poor. And that's the energy I get. These fucking biogentrifiers from Manhattan that come upstate and they're like, oh yeah, we'll just buy these houses, and say literally things like, what am I quoting here? They're like, oh yeah, like give, I would evict them as soon as possible because I have a buyer that's very interested. Like these fucking, like, this, all white liberals talk about is real estate, and it sickens me. The second they're done, gathering in a park to read a Pete Seeger fucking poem for Black Lives Matter, they go right back to Trulia. That's a good joke when you use that. So yeah, I don't know, it really gave me pause, because, like, I am by no means a fucking activist or a, philanthropic individual, but this dude just asking me for a fucking pint of milk is like, that's what we have to do better about, and that's what bothers me. And I have friends who kind of, like, turn their nose up at these people, but at the same time are like, oh, how could you even consider voting for Trump? And I'm like, well, for a lot of reasons. Number one, Trump's, like, honest about his shittiness, and that's what I appreciate. These fucking liberals up here, these fucking liberals are so two-faced about who they actually care about, or they're so, duplicitous about, like, their care stops when it affects their dollar. It's like they'll care about disenfranchised people and minorities insofar as that it doesn't affect their comfy lifestyles or their ability to keep making money at the expense of these poor people being pushed out. So, I don't know. It's all a bit of a nightmare. And there's a very familiar energy that, and this is just an energy that I've seen so many times in my life, because I just, by the virtue of the schools that I've went to and the types of jobs that I've worked, I just keep having to deal with these people. And as I get older, I'm just more tired of their shit. I was like going to the bank, deposit a check, and I see this guy with a bumper sticker that says, "Got food? Thank a farmer." And I looked up. I'm like, now what kind of guy is this going to be? Is this going to be a toothless dude with wearing overalls, who's like in his late 60s? Or is it going to be a younger guy with a beard, some chukka boots, and, some Warby Parker glasses on a cell phone? And of course, it was the latter. And it made me think about, do you think, like, the Iowa farmers who, work on, industrial level agricultural farms or dairy farms or slaughterhouses, who are essentially the backbone of this country, for better or worse, for whatever you think about that type of farming, they provide food that prevents us from descending into a Mad Max hellscape, as we saw us almost descend into at the beginning of this pandemic. You think they're driving around with, like, a "got food, thank a farmer"? Or do you think they're more like, "That's my job, gotta do it"? They, like, they may feel that, and I think most people know that, but they wouldn't be so entitled to demand, like, respect for their job that they do. And I think a lot of these, like, young, like, 20-something, 30-something, nouveau farmers in the Hudson Valley really do this, like, I'm the most important. I'm a farmer. I provide expensive foraged mushrooms and basil to a restaurant on Broome Street. It's like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. Like, yeah, these farmers are like acting like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? They're not that important. God, let me just get a sip of this beer real quick. Hold on, I'm parched. Yeah, I don't know. All right, I feel good. Any relationship stuff going on? No. God, I'm fucking horny. And I don't mean that to be crass. I mean, like, I've been working out more. Like, I think I've been at the gym, like, every other day. If I'm not at PT, I, like, been running more, running faster, and, just really, because I seen this, like, girl at the gym who just had, like, big ass back and I don't know. I like a woman who's got a big back, like a nice, like a granite slab that fell off the back of, I got nothing. I don't have any geological metaphors. Yeah, I wasn't actually very good at geology in school. Anyway, it inspires me to be healthier because it just makes me feel more fertile. And on topic, vouch my 30s, I never really understood what it meant to have a biological clock. But like weirdly, there's just something about when I come, and you know, it is a little crass here, guys. I'm just between friends here, and you know, if you're listening, I come a lot. I tend to come a lot, and when I come a lot, I'm like alone and by myself. I'm like, it's kind of a waste. Could have creamed those guts. You know what I'm saying? All right, this is okay. I haven't beat off today. Maybe that's the problem. Okay, guys. So again, happy 9/11, which I'm sure is not Patriots Day. Apparently, it's called. I don't know about that. I don't know how I feel about that. Watch out for these gentrifiers. This is gentrification watch. I don't know. I need to take a trip sometime soon. Get myself some perspective because I feel like I'm just drowning in this gentrifier's delight upstate New York. And I also don't give a shit too. I'm like, whatever. It's gonna happen. I'm not like trying to stop it per se. I'm just sort of just tired of people being so fucking obvious. I wish someone would do something novel for once with their lives instead of just being like, oh, well, I'm going here now. I'm gonna have all right. Okay, guys, this was fun. Thanks for listening. Have a good weekend.